I mean, I want to start on that because, yeah, shocked would be an understatement. And I mean, we see a couple times that you and Rachel are talking about like something feels off. All these people are going off by themselves. I mean, even at tribal council, you have something as pretty surprising as Rachel playing her shot in the dark. So I guess to go back to what you were saying, my first question is there anything in hindsight that you're looking back on from day 15 and thinking either A, I should have seen the warning signs, or like B, I should or shouldn't have done that?
So I saw the warning signs that something wasn't right and I wasn't in with the plan, but I didn't think the plan was me. It started with I noticed Andy, Genevieve, and I believe Teeny was with them. We're in the water having this like conversation, and I'm like, already felt like strange about the conversation. Like I was watching them from afar, and I'm like, let me go intrude. And we didn't see that on the episode, but you saw me at that time talking with Andy, kind of just breaking things down. But I then Genevieve immediately walked away, and I'm like, something isn't right. And I said to him, like, I'm like, Andy, am I still your island sister? Look me in your eyes. Am I like, I'm like, he knew I like clocked it. Like, I was like, something's not right. He's
Oh.
switching, he's flipping, which was like, he was like, you did. Like, we were talking about like the vote that night. And you were a part of it. And then I just like, I knew something, I just had a feeling in my gut. And then Teeny was really pulling to keep me there and like going around to everybody, like, somebody freaking explain to me, why is it Sierra and not Sam tonight? And right before tribal, we're all sitting around getting like gathering our stuff. Teeny is like not even looking me in my eyes. And Teeny and I would have like laughing fits out there. Like we couldn't even sit next to each other because we just like start dying laughing. Like we formed such a cool bond. And when she stopped doing that, I'm like, something's not right. So I mouthed to Rachel from like across like the shelter, and I'm like just shaking my head, and I'm like, something's not right. And she was like, I feel weird. And I'm like, no, I feel weird. So then it was like she was smart at least, and took her shot and played the shot in the dark. But yeah, we knew something wasn't right.
Yeah, so let's start getting into what got you here. And it's, at least from our perspective, going to at least primarily lie at the feet of one man. Your island brother goes to show maybe island blood is not thicker than water. I mean, talk to me about this relationship because look, certainly from our perspective, we've seen, a couple comments about you feeling like you had him in your pocket, et cetera, about how sloppy he was playing. And whether he knew it or not, it was sort of building to that point where he felt it was time to turn. Talk to me about your perspective on the relationship and how do you look back on his choice to ultimately decide to go against you and Sam?
I feel like our relationship wasn't really portrayed the way that I at least felt it was on the island. Like, you see a lot of like negativity coming from me, like, Andy's a sloppy player, Andy's this, Andy's that, and kind of like lacked the positive things I talked about Andy, and we more so highlighted the negative. And don't get me wrong, like, Andy knows it himself. Like, he was just like a little mess. Like, he just simply was, point blank, period. But I like kind of like loved him for that. I was like, we just had so many funny moments together. And, even though he's an older person, like he's like 30, and he was older than me, I felt like he was a little brother. And I wanted to see him do well ultimately. And we had just like, I felt like he was bringing me information. I did feel safe bringing him information. I knew it would always get back to Sam, but I was okay with that because, we were like a trio. But I definitely think Annie and I thought we were going to go further and longer in the game, but I know I made the mistake of letting him like slip through the cracks once we hit the merge. I went into the merge saying, I got to keep him close. And I just got off in conversations and this and that, and let him just slip. And that's when he started forming his different alliances with like Lavo and Tuku. So I do look back and I'm like, that was my mistake of not touching base more, bringing him information, talking about like what other tribes are saying. So that did it for me.
Yeah, what was your reaction to Saul telling Andy about you and Sam were the one to suggest him as a decoy? Because again, that seemed to be the straw that broke the camel's back. Had you thought about going to Andy at the merge and letting him know what was talked about there? And what made you decide to sort of acquiesce to having him be that decoy vote on the Rome boot?
So I think, I mean, ultimately, I thought Andy, again, I just didn't want everybody else to know that early on at the merge, like that Sam, Andy, and I were working together. So I think I almost, in my mind at least, I just wanted to like toss it out there knowingly that it was like at that point, everybody already established like it's Rome. Like it wasn't even a question. But again, Rome could have played an idol, but it seemed like at that point, a lot of us knew that Rome didn't have an advantage or an idol. So I felt confident that Andy would have stayed. But I do wish I just told him, like, hey, your name was being tossed around, and we, like, I said willingly, yeah, Andy would be a great backup plan, just so that they don't know we're like still like working together tightly. And I thought Andy would want that too, because Andy already went in saying, like, I want them to know I'm on the bottom. I'm on the bottom of Gata. Like he was kind of like claiming that characteristic. So I thought in the end it would have been it just I my thinking was just I don't want them to know we're as connected as we were.
That makes sense. I mean, let's rewind one vote because it's the most important decision that you'll make in the game, especially in hindsight. I mean, here you are, to your credit, stuck right in the middle of two different sides. And I know you explained it a bit on the episode, but now that you have unlimited time, expound to me a bit more about your decision to go with Sam and Andy and ultimately, break up the breadwinners and vote out Annika.
So well, just starting with I don't even think it was shown as much in the edit that Rachel and Annika were super tight. Like
Hmm.
doing so many things, walking down the beach together. Like I always felt like I had to like go to them and be like, "Are we good?" Like I felt very left out of that, way more left out than I think it like shows. So I'm like, I knew 1,000 by a freaking ocean. I was like on the bottom of this like trio. So my thinking was why would I ever like want to even like I did try. I said, "Hey Sam, I really think it'd be a great idea. Let's like keep Annika." Kind of pitched him like reasonings why. And I did it very strong, like, I can't stand her, she's gotta go. And I'm like, why like ruffle his feathers enough, my number one, where I already felt like Annika easily could have turned on me. And she also says that in her exit interview where she's like, I'm more upset because they played me before I could play them. So I'm like, I felt that out there. I felt that she was a gamer. I'm a very like big vibes person where I'm like, I felt true trust and true like relationships, at least with Sam and like even Rachel at this point. Andy was always a little red flag, but then Annika, I was like, I can't read this girl. She, wasn't honest to me about she found the advantage with Sam. So Sam and they come back. Me, Annika, and Rachel end up in the water. And I already saw Sam flashed me the advantage. I knew they found something. And I set up Annika because I'm like, this is like showing me if I have trust in you right now. I said, did you and Sam find anything? She said, no, I didn't. Like, we didn't. And I'm like, I know you did. So you're lying to me. I didn't say that, but in my head, I'm like, okay. So that was a big red flag to me. I'm like, she's already not like giving me this information. The reasoning I was given was they wanted Sam to be able to tell me himself because that's what he wanted to do. But I'm like, if we're this true core like breadwinners alliance, screw Sam's feeling. Bring me the information. So that was it. And then also finding out about, ultimately she blew up my game at the journey. Sam and Sierra running Gata. I mean, she didn't say that, but just she said we're very tight. We have this like core like bond. So that blew it up, and that stuck with me the rest of the game.
Yeah, so let's talk about Sam because it was, a cohesive relationship, albeit maybe a complicated one. Sometimes that alliance therapy scene being a big example. So talk to me about because I had heard from even like John at the very beginning that like the two of you seemed like a pair. So what drew you to each other to work together so early on? And talk to me about your, take on the dynamic.
So Sam and I, which wasn't shown, which also shocked me, was like night one. We all go into the shelter and we're all laying there. We're trying to go to bed. And then Rachel, John, Andy, Annika, they couldn't sleep. So they get up, they go back to the fire. And I'm like, I am tired. Like it just like all the jet, everything like caught up to me. I was like, I'm beat. Um, So I sit up, but then I say to Sam, I'm like, do you think we should go over there? Like, I think we're missing like core, like bonding time. Like, I don't really like this being like the two just sitting out of, as they're all talking, catching up, getting to know each other. And Sam looked at me and was like, this is going to be like, this night and this moment right here is going to be much more important than like what they're doing and talking about at the fire. And that's just where we had like great conversation about like family, our relationships at home, and like built this like trust that just came naturally. And it was like that was the night that we just established like, let's do this, like let's run this game together. And that wasn't really shown how we built that up. But then, he brought me information, I brought him information. I just felt like Sam was somebody like I grew up with, like somebody I've known my entire life, one of like my boyfriend's friends back at home. It was like it just was easy, it clicked. And again, in the game of Survivor, trust is such a big thing. And I'm like, he didn't even need to do anything for me to realize we get each other. It's just like we didn't even need to communicate. Like we were always on the same page. It could be a look from across the shelter, anything. And I didn't have that with anybody else out there.
So even, all of the relationship, prognostication aside, to your point, you two had known through these cross-tribal connections that you were sort of outed as like the power couple of Gada. Did that affect the way that you approached the merge at all? Because we could also argue that's a big reason why you were talking with me today is because, okay, if we're going to go for Gada, let's go for the two that were apparently running the show.
So it did. I mean, it definitely going in, we were like, well, I guess we can't even like communicate. Like we shouldn't even look at each other. We should just like do our own thing, go make different alliances, but always know that we come back and bring each other information. So like immediately when Sam started working with Genevieve, like right off the bat, he said, I really like her. Let's like, that could be somebody we could work with in the game. So I just think definitely splitting up the communication, but apparently we didn't do a good job. But I think I hit the merge and I'm like between like Teeny, Sam, Rachel, even like Tiana at that point. I'm like, I just love these people. I'm like, I am with my friends out here, and you have to like check yourself and remember you were in the game of Survivor, not like a game of like forming friendships. And like, I think that also got the best of me because I would just get in conversation. Sam and I would be like goofing off, Teeny and I would be goofing off, and I would just like forget, like, hey, I shouldn't even be like looking or talking with Sam. I mean, Saul was like, we saw it from a mile away. Like, you guys like were just like, you guys were terrifying together because we felt something was, you guys were just clicking and bonding with everybody, but ultimately coming back to each other.
Yeah, so I mean, on that note, it seemed like you had built a lot of great relationships. Again, a reason why you ended up getting voted out here. So had this Gotcha Tuku war, had Gotcha being victorious, you get out Gabe in this instance. Were you eyeballing already who you wanted to go to the end with now that the jury had started? And were you going to go Gotcha strong? Were there some of these newer faces like a Genevieve, like a Teeny you wanted alongside next to you?
So Teeny, 1000%. I was like, I would want undoubtedly go to the end with Teeny. And I was always going to stay like true and strong with Sam. Rachel, I ultimately I was still shaky on whether or not she was even going to like forgive me from the Annika vote and like will she ever trust me? So I was still trying to figure her out, but ultimately that was like my go-to girl out there. And then once I started like communicating with Teeny more, I'm like, oh, this could be really good. I didn't really get a good like connection with Genevieve, unfortunately. Like we just like didn't, I don't know, we just didn't really game together. But Teeny 100% would have went to the end with.
Well, Sierra, thank you so much for taking the time to talk
Thank
with me today and for
you.
everything that you brought to the beach as well. You saved the chickens, helped contribute to that trade, and thank you for trading in your words of wisdom and your insights today about this game. I know that, especially from a discourse perspective, it's been a couple of rough weeks for you, but you really did walk out with, albeit a shocked head, but a head held high in the midst of all. You got to have a margarita and a fake selfie with Jeff Probst,
Like,
and
come
now you got to
on.
have. And I'm assuming you got to have many more margaritas once you hit Ponderosa for the next few
Oh
weeks.
yeah, Queen of Ponderosa. We held it down over there.
Well, I'm excited to see who you welcome in next and to see you on that jury bench because we're going to keep seeing you. until the finale. So I'm very excited to see what's going to happen with you. And Sierra, thank you as always for taking the time to chat. It's been lovely as per usual to get the chance to speak
Thank
with you.
you. Yes, love talking with you. I'll talk with you again soon.
Yes, absolutely. You have a great one. All the best to you and yours.
Thank you. Thanks, Mike. See ya.